What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome back to another video at Axe Entertainment. I'm your host, Zach Axe, bringing you another episode of WWE Weekly Awards for the episodes 6-2 through 6-6. Now, going forward with this series, on weeks like this where we're heading into a big pay-per-view like Money in the Bank, I do want to start doing less topics. Just because by the time I upload this video, usually Money in the Bank or the big pay-per-view is already over, and then I know the outcome, and then everything leading up to it kind of becomes pointless because I know the outcome, just like this week where I know the outcome of Money in the Bank, I know the outcome of Worlds Collide. So everything we really did heading into it didn't really matter all too much. This one's being recorded later than usual, which I do want to apologize for, but I will start getting out the ones that come after the pay-per-view, hopefully the day after the pay-per-view itself happens. Nonetheless, I didn't want to disqualify everything that happened this week from getting awarded because it still definitely deserved it. Just because we're heading into Money in the Bank doesn't mean we didn't have any good wrestling. We do only have two topics to talk about because, like I said, I know what happens at Money in the Bank, so everything that we could talk about that happens is going to happen at Money in the Bank is kind of disqualified from this video because I know what happens at Money in the Bank, and that's my only flaw I'm finding with this series so far, is trying to talk about the week of wrestling heading into a pay-per-view even though the pay-per-view already happened. But so how we're going to do it is I'm going to give out two awards, we're going to talk about a topic, give out another award, talk about a topic, and then we're going to give out the last two awards and be done, so we will have a shorter than regular weekly awards here. Now, the first award I want to give is Promo of the Week. Now, Promo of the Week's honorable mention is going to go to John Cena for his promo on Smackdown, along with Logan Paul later on after that. But I am going to give it this week to a promo battle between Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. Now, these two, I've said it enough, I've sang their prayers, are absolutely amazing in the ring together. Whether it's on the mic or whether it's, in the actual ring, these two are putting on magic, and this feud has absolutely been one of the most entertaining parts of WWE recently. And their promo battle, their promo work just goes to show you why they're two, honestly, of the best female talkers. Isn't that ironic that I just messed up trying to say two of the best female talkers? Two of the best female talkers on the roster, and they absolutely cooked each other in this promo. It was very entertaining. They brought up, they kept it professional while also being disrespectful, and that's what we need from a promo battle, because when a promo battle flies off the rails, yeah, it might be entertaining, but at the same time, it's just a little awkward more than anything. This one kept it professional while also, throwing in some jabs. And I think overall these two women are great on the mic, and I'm still excited to see where this feud's going, even though we've already seen what happened at Money in the Bank. Getting right into the next award, I'm going to give out Male MVP, and I thought this was kind of symbolic to put here. There's a couple honorable mentions I'm going to shout out for Male MVP. We're going to start with Aleister Black and LA Knight getting honorable mentions because they both had some great moments, including their matchup on Smackdown. And I also want to give honorable mention to Trick Williams, who defended his TNA World Championship against Santana on NXT. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give this award to Seth frickin' Rollins. And it's simply because Seth Rollins looked dominant. He was definitely the most productive male on these episodes, because not only was he on Raw, but he was on SmackDown just kicking everyone's ass. He came out in the main event Monday Night Raw to cost CM Punk the chance to be in Money in the Bank. On him just beating, brawling with Jey Uso and with, CM Punk and Sami Zayn and all of his feuds going forward. On Monday Night Raw, and then we saw him come over to SmackDown and lead his group into a pretty good promo battle with Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline, and then later on beating down Penta and Andrade, and just anybody that was in Money in the Bank was going to get it from Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins absolutely, showed up, showed out, led his group into the future, took out everybody in his path, and I think that overall, even though he didn't have a match this week, he had to win Male MVP because he was just the most featured and most prominent superstar of the men's division. And also we can throw a little notch on his belt for winning Money in the Bank. Even though I'm not counting Money in the Bank as a part of this video, he did go on and win Money in the Bank. So that just adds even more to an already stellar week for Seth Rollins. And I thought it was pretty poetic putting him right after his wife winning an award. Alright, one of the only two topics I want to talk about is the NXT groups are seeming to fall apart. I don't know what I'm going to call this topic, but that's kind of the tagline. Because on NXT, we saw two different groups lose a member. Now, the cullings happened out of freaking nowhere. Literally, they were backstage talking. The leader of this group is supposed to be Shawn Spears. And I think they did Brooks Jensen dirty because he just got smacked with a chair by Izzy Dame, just literally smacked with a chair, and she said he's not all the way in. And the leader of the freaking group just said, okay, let's go. So the culling minus is a member and Brooks Jensen. I don't know what this means for Brooks, because honestly, Brooks was kind of floundering before he found his feet in the culling, and now he's out of the culling. So I don't know what is going to happen with Brooks. And honestly, I don't really like the culling as a group. I've never really been able to get behind them as a group. It feels like they're just kind of like what was Joe Gacy's old group, Skizzer, I think. Yeah, Skizzer. It kind of just feels like a ripoff of them, honestly. But now that Brooks Jensen's gone and we just have Nico, Izzy, and Sean, it's just a little bit weird. I don't see where we're going with the culling, but I guess we'll have to stay tuned. And then also the more interesting group also lost their most interesting member in the NQCC, losing Miles Bourne. Now, this actually was a great playthrough because, like I said, in the culling losing Brooks Jensen, it was just a little cutaway, chair shot, he's not in, okay, leave. This was a match. We had a rounds match between Charlie Dempsey, the leader of NQCC, and Miles Bourne, the more interesting member of NQCC, with the two other members, Davion Heights and I forgot her name. Anyways, being divided on who they're gonna help in this match. It was a rounds match, was absolutely, I think, hurt it because I do not like rounds matches, but I think they played it very well on the fact it was a rounds match, especially with the knee out of nowhere from Charlie Dempsey. Well, not out of nowhere, but after the bell, I meant the knee to Miles Bourne, just kind of showing he's cheating to beat the guy that he's supposed to be teaching that shouldn't be better than him, because he's the student and I'm the teacher, but he had to try to cheat to beat him. The stipulation of this match, of course, being that if Miles Bourne won, he got to lead the NQCC. And we saw after that knee, both members were kind of split between the corners, but after that knee, they were more driven towards Miles, which I think this is making for a really interesting future, because then we had Miles Bourne win, and he's out of NQCC. And he won with a dropkick, which I thought was a little bit weird. I don't know if he's going to start using it as a finisher because he hit like 40 of them on Obafemi. But he won with the dropkick. And then after the match, we saw Tavion Heights actually celebrating with Miles Bourne. So now that he's out, but the other two are still in, even though they were favoring Miles, how's Charlie Dempsey going to feel about this? This might just be the end of the NQCC altogether. And what I don't want to happen is I don't want Tavion Heights to follow and then be a tag team again. I want Miles Bourne on his own being a main eventer in NXT, and we'll find something else for them to do. Hopefully it's just a feud here soon between Tavion Heights and Charlie Dempsey. Next award I want to give out is Match of the Week. Now, Match of the Week, there wasn't a lot of matches that I thought absolutely drew my eye. We're going to start by giving honorable mention to the 4-on-4 in NXT. Actually, more about that later. But I am going to give Match of the Week to the main event of Monday Night Raw between CM Punk, El Grande Americano, and AJ Styles. Before all the bells and whistles, this match was already great, and that's kind of what is to be expected from the talents that were in the ring. Not only, of course, Chad Gable or whoever's under that mask, but we also had CM Punk and AJ Styles, which is a dream match for a lot of people, including myself. And we kind of got to see glimpses of it here with their match, but of course we had El Grande Americano's goofy ass thrown in there too. But still, at the end of the day, it's Chad Gable, so it was always going to be like a technical classic between three great technical wrestlers. And it was a great match. There were some great spots heading into, of course, we had then Seth Rollins come out, Jey Uso come out, Sami Zayn come out, and there's all the bells and whistles to kind of damper the match a little bit. And then we had the last guy I would ever see win this match in El Grande Americano, hitting the steel plate on AJ Styles after AJ takes out everybody. AJ tries to hit a phenomenal forearm and gets taken out with the steel plate. Now, when Seth Rollins and all of them came out, I was like, okay, CM Punk's not going to be in Money in the Bank, but at least we're going to get AJ Styles. And then we got El Grande Americano instead. And that was just a weird booking decision to me, but after seeing Money in the Bank, he definitely had a great showing, so I'm not as mad now. And I can look back on this match with fondness, because after this match I was a little bit heated at the fact that El Grande Americano just beat CM Punk and AJ Styles. And I love El Grande Americano, don't get me wrong. I just would rather have AJ or CM Punk for potential, this could be like one of their last times to be in Money in the Bank. So I would have rather see them be in Money in the Bank as opposed to El Grande, who still has not maybe the character El Grande, but Chad Gable, who has years and years to go in the business. But at the end of the day, it was still a great match, and that's why it's going to win Match of the Week. Now we kind of have a general topic I want to talk about, being the title pictures in WWE. And I just think it's really funny because I started thinking about who's doing it better, Raw or SmackDown. And that's kind of what I want to talk about for a second. So in the main title picture right now, I would say it's like kind of a tie, with Jey Uso being World Heavyweight Champion before his match here coming soon with Gunther, and John Cena being WWE Champion. Now, John Cena is not there every week, but when he's there, he's putting on great WWE TV. Jey Uso is there every week, and he's always putting on great TV. So that one's really hard to decide who's doing it better. I think the mid-card right now, it's really obvious who's doing it better, and it's pretty funny because thinking about it, it kind of has the same champion right now, because we have the different wrestlers, but same like kind of, I don't want to say gimmick, but okay, let me just explain. We have the IC champion Dominic Mysterio, who is currently involved in a group in the Judgment Day, and then we have the US champion Jacob Fatu, who is currently involved in a group in the Bloodline. Now, after Money in the Bank, we know, of course, that the Bloodline is no more, and Jacob Fatu has broken away, but we kind of had those two both feeling like they were trapped. But even though they were both in a group, well, I feel like Dominic is kind of struggling as Intercontinental Champion. First of all, he's not on TV doing stuff very often. Like, he's always on TV, but he's never really doing anything of importance as the Intercontinental Champion, and he's constantly being overshadowed by the other members of the Judgment Day. Jacob Fatu, on the other hand, is always on TV, always feels like he's doing something important, and he's always overshadowing everybody else in the group. So I'd say the US title right now is being booked better than the IC title. Tag title is not even a debate. I would say we have so many places to still go from the SmackDown tag division, even though now we're kind of just throwing them into just random segments with the Wyatt Six just to get beat up. Like, it just, they're not letting them have matches. And then we have Pretty Deadly and Los Garza, who's not even like in the tag division anymore. They're kind of doing other things. I would say if we could just send them over to Raw, I think that would be an easy fix to the tag division over there. Because if we have Los Garza, Pretty Deadly, the Viking Raiders, the War Raiders, the New Day, the Creed Brothers, the Judgment Day, all fighting for the tag titles, that's 6 teams right there. And we still on SmackDown at that point have the Street Profits, DIY, the Motor City Machine Guns, the Wyatt Six, and Fraxium. Oh, one of the best tag teams ever, Fraxium. So then we'd still have 5 teams over here that are great, and those are like the main teams over here. 6 teams over here that can finally start to build this division back up, and then maybe we see where we go from there. But obviously right now the SmackDown tag division is being booked so much better. Kind of the division I wanted to talk about with this one was kind of the women's mid cards. So the main cards for women right now I think are kind of the same, because Io Sky and Tiffany Stratton are doing nothing. Literally pretty much nothing. Like, they're just showing up on the show to get interrupted by somebody who gets interrupted by somebody else, and then those two fight, and then we have nothing for Tiffany or Io. And I feel like right now they're both not being featured on TV the best that they should be, and we're very rarely seeing them wrestle, and they're just kind of waiting for their next challenger. So those two, I'd say, are both being booked terribly right now, despite having great champions. And then we have the last comparable one, which is the one I made the video about, or wanted to make this topic about in the first place, which was the women's mid-card with the US Championship and the IC Championship. Now, if you look at these two are polar freaking opposites. And it's funny because, like I said, the tag division on SmackDown is cooking and the tag division on Raw is sucking. The women's mid-card on Raw is cooking and the women's SmackDown mid-card is dead. And the IC title now, this feud with Becky Lynch has elevated this thing to being higher than the women's main championships. This feels more important. This is on more shows than the women's championships, and this feels like the most important title in women's wrestling right now, versus the US Championship, which just feels like we're stuck in the same loop as Zelina Vega, constantly fighting somebody from the Secret Service or fighting Chelsea Green, and just continues to beat them, and she has no other challengers. But I'm finally excited because we have Julia entering into a feud with Zelina Vega, and I'm hoping this can cook just like we're starting to see with Lyra and Becky. I'm really excited to see where a lot of these titles are going. I'm hoping some of them need some fixing, and some of them are okay. I'm not going to talk about the NXT titles right now. I'm just going to talk about the main card titles, and I'm excited to see where we're going from here. But at the same time, it seems like some titles are definitely stuck in the same position. But anyways, that leads us into our last 2 awards. Then Team of the Week, which I'm going to give an honorable mention for Team of the Week to Seth Rollins' group, because like I said, I gave Seth male MVP for being the one that's orchestrating all these attacks. And then we also got to factor in Heyman and Reed and Breaker. But I'm not going to give him necessarily Team of the Week. And I'm also going to give honorable mention to the team of Stephanie Vaquer, Alexa Bliss, and Rhea Ripley, because those are 3 of my favorite female wrestlers. And they're on the same team, so I had to shout them out. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give it to a mixed match team that I thought worked really well together and is like almost a dream team between Javon Evans, Laredo Kid, Dragon Lee, and Shawn Legacy. Now, if we just go through them, obviously we all know Javon Evans is amazing. Laredo Kid is getting a lot of new eyes. Shawn Legacy is getting a lot of new eyes ever since he started showing up on NXT. And we have Dragon Lee, who's just a known commodity on how good he is. And they ended up wrestling the Vanity Project and Ethan Page. Now, of course, everyone knows Ethan Page is one of the best in NXT. The Vanity Project didn't really impress me that much. They had some cool moves, but just bringing guys that want to Evolve that really have no storyline to the guys that aren't watching Evolve just kind of sucks, because, like, a little bit of a rant right here. We're kind of in a chain right now where if you want to be watch all of wrestling, it's very, very hard, because if you're just watching the main roster, okay, but now you want to understand the new guys that are coming in. Okay, well, I'm going to go down and watch NXT. Well, now I'm watching 8 hours of television. Oh, you want to understand the new guys that are coming up to NXT. Now you got to go watch Evolve, and it just feels like we're in a ladder now to where if you want to understand what's happening when these guys are coming up, you got to constantly keep going down. And I'm not saying the shows are any worse. I'm just saying it's like you have to keep going down and down. And I don't want to watch everything. Of course, I like the 3. I don't want to go down and watch Evolve to know who the Vanity Project is. And I feel like they are impressing a little bit. And Shawn Legacy is definitely the best thing to come out of Evolve so far. He put on an absolutely stellar performance in this match. Javon Evans and Dragon Lee and Laredo Kid, all pretty much known commodities at this point, and they were all kicking ass in this match. They all looked great, and it's just on paper such a cool tag team to look at, and they all pretty much have the same style. And Laredo Kid and Dragon Lee had some very good chemistry. The only misstep I really saw from this entire match from this team was when Laredo Kid got stuck on the ropes trying to do a suicide dive. But of course, having that high flashy offense, you're going to mess up here and there. So I think his knee pad got caught on the rope, and he kind of hit the ground before he could catch one of the Vanity Project members. But overall, I thought this team absolutely showed up and showed out. And I know it's a one-off team, but I'm going to give them Team of the Week because it was very, very interesting to see them team up, and it was very cool to see the style that they brought. Next award I want to give out is the Female MVP of the Week. And I'm going to give honorable mention to Julia. We talked about her a little bit earlier and how she's currently involved in the U.S. title picture, and she's going into Money in the Bank with another match, and she's kind of juggling 2 storylines at the same time, and she's doing very good at it. So she's going to get honorable mention, but I'm going to give a repeat winner the award. Actually, I think this lady might have won the very first award I ever give out, and that is Stephanie Vaquer. Now, Stephanie Vaquer, is one of my favorite women on the entire roster and the entire planet. And she absolutely had some great matches. So she just lost the NXT Championship last week to JC Jane. Before I go any further, real quick, Mariah May debuted too. I meant to mention that as an honorable mention because Mariah May is freaking in NXT. But she loses the NXT Championship last week, and then she comes over to the main roster literally on Monday Night Raw and has a great triple threat with Ivy Nile and with Liv Morgan to qualify for the Money in the Bank. And then come Friday, she's being thrown into a tag team with 2 of the best, and Alexa Bliss and Rhea Ripley, to take on, Roxanne, Julia, and Naomi. And absolutely great performance in both matches from Stephanie Vaquer. She's showing what she's made of early, and I'm glad that she's being given the right opportunities. And I'm sure going forward, Julia, Roxanne, and Stephanie will all be winning this award multiple times. But right now, I'm going to give it to Stephanie because she had a great match on Raw, she had a great match on Smackdown, and she got to go into Money in the Bank. I didn't even mention that on Worlds Collide, she's having a tag team match with Lola Vice. And like I said, the next day, then she's at Money in the Bank. So she's having 4 matches this week. So I had to just overall give Stephanie Vaquer this award for just the sheer insanity that is the fact that she's wrestling 4 times this week and having great matches along the way. She had great matches all 4 times. I know I said I'm not factoring in Money in the Bank, but I guess I could factor in Worlds Collide. And if I am, I can't say that because I would have given Chad Gable and Vikingo the match. So we're not factoring it in, but it's a little side note that she did great at those two events after she had great matches on Raw and SmackDown. That's it for this video. If you did enjoy, then please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I'm going to try to make this one shorter for you guys. Only, like I said, 2 topics to talk about today, because that's probably going to be the style going forward. Every time I do a weekly awards heading into a big pay-per-view, I'm probably just going to drop the 5-topic system and talk about a couple things that's happening, because like I said, we know what's happening heading into Money in the Bank, and I already know what has happened because I have seen it by the time I get weekly awards out. If you did like
this happening. I had real tough love, I'm bad at this, and now I'm bad for this. Narcissistic tendencies, I don't care about no one else. Narcissistic tendencies, I'm low, so set me on the shelf. Few people ever have my back, yeah, there ain't no doubt about that.
If you did enjoy the video, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you want to be notified whenever I drop a new video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.